Hello everyone and welcome back. After we explain most important attribute for foam look, in the next few videos we are going to finalize our whale jump whitewater sim. We are not going to build so much of the setup because making whitewater source and whitewater solver we already explored in vid 2. And also final setup, as you can see here, it's almost default whitewater solver with just few pop force nodes. Instead of that, we will go through my wedges and I will talk what I did and how some of parameters helped me getting that final look for whale jump simulation. So this is my final look, something that I like the most after I did all of my wedges. So I will just guide you through some of the important things and something that I think is necessary to look when you are trying to match your reference. So let's start. The first whitewater wedge that I did is whitewater source, the same thing that we did on the rock splash. So I tried different parameters for whitewater source. So let me show you some of them. So in this, for example, I use acceleration, and in this whitewater source node there was a limit by depth of minus 0.2, and then I tried different depths. So I just want to isolate as much as possible only close to the surface, and you can see how result is different when you change or limit your whitewater source by depth. So this is minus 0.1, this is minus 0.075, so you can see the difference. Okay, let's stop again. You can see the difference between, so this is minus 2, minus 0.2, 0.1, minus 0.075, and this is one I also use acceleration and vorticity combined. So as you can see, this is just I just run through them to see which one is going to give me most interesting result. The next thing is whitewater scale. So the whitewater scale, as same as we did before, is just resolution of our whitewater simulation. So this is 0.1, 0.06, 0.4 and 0.25 something, and the final was 0.02. And also I can see here how many points we have in all of these 4 examples for whitewater scale. So I was and also I checked this simulation speed, so I find that everything below 1 hour is really good and fast for running wedges, because we want to have as much as possible settings close to our final, so when we tweak we don't need to worry about if we go like low res tweaking and then go to high res, what kind of result we are going to get. So as close as possible to final settings, it's going to help us to minimize problems later. The next thing that I wanted to check, because if we see the reference, when the whale is going out, there is not so much water on the whale. There is just few droplets and few really small streams. So I wanted to see if I animate emission, how I can rid of the bigger amount, but that's something that we get by default. So let's close this one, and so this is emission amount. So as you can see, this is the same whitewater scale but just different emission amount. So this is 0.25 and this is 0.75, and so everything is same in terms of details for the simulation. The only amount of points that we are going to emit, so as you can see here, these two are different in amount of whitewater particles. So I was happy with with 0.75 till 1. So I choose one of them to continue on my next example. After that, the main issue that I didn't like is, if you can see here, when the whale is going out of the water and comparing to our initial wedge simulation, on our initial simulation there is a lot of points that whale is dragging with his head out of the water. So the next idea was try to minimize this emission area as much as possible. So the next wedge that I did was whitewater emission, but I tried to animate this attribute by looking when the whale is going to come out of the water. So let me show you. So the next one, as we can see here, is actually only the emission amount animation. So you can see here is the animation already start emitting when the whale is coming out of the water, and this is just the different timing, So coming from in this example here, coming from the 0, and now start to emit 2, and the final one is 1. So we can see the difference, and this is something that we are trying to match, like we have here when the whale is coming out of the water. The second problem, after I was happy that this emission amount animation is actually working, the second problem was that, as we can see on the reference here, and this is the good angle, there is no white water below the surface. So the white water only happens when the whale's head is almost out of the water. So the second thing was to minimize, so because this is our water level, to minimize this emission below the surface, because with a flip there is always going to be boundary around our collision object, and something that whitewater source is going to include in sourcing for, even if you use acceleration or vorticity. And sometimes it's really hard to isolate this area to remove from emission just tweaking acceleration, vorticity, curvature, or speed. So in next example, let me show you. I use a mask to mask this area below the surface, and also I try a few more animation on emission amount. So you can see here now, if we compare, there is no emission below the surface, so only when the whale is coming out, and this is something that is close, for example, to this wedge. So no white water below the surface, and when the whale head is completely out, like here we can see the white water is sliding over the body of the whale. So for the masking part, so what I did here is that this is our whitewater source, or original one. So you can see the water level, and we can see there is a sourcing happening below the surface. So what I did is that I create simple box object, and with VDB activate I remove that emission below the surface. So as you can see here, so there is nothing below our surface anymore. So, and if I disable this node, as you can see, this is the area that I don't want to emit any whitewater points. And also for this object I use animation, so when the whale is going down, because we want to catch some of the new areas, like body that is going into the water, I just animate this object that after he already jumped out of the water, to just remove that box and isolate, and remove that box from limit area, so that when the whale is going into the water, there is no limit, or killing our sourcing. So that's how I limit only the emission happen on top of the surface. The next thing that I decide to stick with this wedge. So when I continue to the next one, I already have more or less what I like. So the next one that I did was adhesion. Sorry, this is the adhesion control range. This is something that we already talked when I did the whitewater intro for adhesion. So these are few control range. So this is 0.1, this is 0.4, 0.75, and 1 for the same velocity angle. And you can see from 0.1 to 0.3, sorry, 0.4 is something that I like the most. The only problem with 0.1 is that the control range is let's say really weak, so you can see how the particles, when they collide with the surface, you can see they are going bit down and then coming back, and this is going to look strange when we try to render. But on 0.4 you can see, soon as particles hit the surface, they stick to our fluid surface. So from 0.1 to 0.4 is something that looks best to me. Everything above, we just see too much, white water stick too much to the fluid surface in the air, and this is something that I don't like. And then the last parameter that I also test for adhesion is velocity angle. We already explained that in the intro, so I was just trying to find the best velocity angle, so to remove adhesion in splash areas. So this is the preview. So the value that I use here is 5, velocity angle of 15, then 45 and 75. As you can see, everything above 45 it's really good to use, because the fluid in the splash area is not sticking to the fluid surface like here. So all these attributes that we talk in these few wedges are emission amount, animation also emission amount, then whitewater scale, and final the attribute for the foam adhesion, so control range and also velocity angle. That's it for now. Thank you and see you in the next one. Bye.